Okay, we're back with another nice new tape and another nice new year. We're going to start 1975. However, before I start 1975, I have to preface that by saying what we're going to talk about now is the workshops that we started. I did the first one, we have to remember, in 1971. I keep getting mixed up whether it was 70 or 71 because I think I planned it in 71. And that was the first workshop ever held anywhere in the world. We didn't know it at that time. I found out years later after traveling throughout the United States and other countries and reading information from other countries. But that was the first seminar, workshop ever held, an 8-hour seminar strictly on preschool safety education. So I should go down in history for some of these things, I guess. This was held at the Marriott Inn in Cleveland, Ohio. We had over 150 people from various states: Ohio, New York, Pennsylvania, Maryland, Illinois. Our guest speaker was Dr. Franklin Herring, who was supervisor of safety for Montgomery County Public Schools in Rockville, Maryland. And he was also the 1970 program chairman of the National Safety Council. He's well known internationally as a fabulous speaker. He was the motivational speaker at the National Safety Council, I think 2 or 3 times. It just has a unique way of presenting safety information in a humorous manner, which made it entertaining. A very, very knowledgeable, very, very nice man. Was very supportive of me. From the first time I met him, I walked out of a room, and he obviously saw I was upset, and he came behind me and said, "Don't let them get you discouraged. You've got your program. You know what you're doing. Just stick with it." But anyway, that was the first program in 71 that we did the seminar, and I have here part of the program. The rest of it is in the office in Ohio. We'll get them all together, but at least we have part of it. And I had various speakers: Patrolman Myers from South Euclid, Patrolman Jane Oyster from Elyria, Francis Lehman from Rocky River, Patrolman Albrecht from East Lake, Greta Scotus excuse me, from Brea, Sergeant Clark from Shaker Heights, and I was the overall presiding speaker. I introduced all the speakers and made comments before and after. And the invocation was given by Mildred Now of the Veterans of Safety. Remember, this is still during the time that I was involved with the Automobile Club. Betty Babbix was involved from Strongsville, Patrolman Russ Bierman of North Olmsted, Sergeant Roland Kreitzberg of the Cleveland Police Department, Helene Anger, the Independents, and Sergeant William Kredovix from the Lorraine Police Department. And our recorder was Ann Hall of Hudson, Ohio. So a lot of nice got a lot of nice people, did a lot of nice things to help. Okay, now we did several seminars after that. We did one, and that was the first one in 71, then we did in 72, 73, 74. I don't have any of those workshop programs with me. They have to be in the office. What I have here starts from 76, which is probably very appropriate because in 1976 is the year that Prudential sponsored that wonderful conference for us, where we had 20 It was a 3-day conference, November 5th, 6th, and 7th, at the Sheraton Cleveland in Ohio. We had, I think it was 21 coordinators. Even Mabel Fenimore from Alaska came in. All expenses were paid by Prudential. They paid everything. It was just wonderful. We had an opening reception on the first night and had some small meetings. Then the next day we had breakfast and took the people on the party bus where you can have cocktails and things and hors d'oeuvres, and took them to see the University Circle area, the art museum, and they just had a wonderful, wonderful time. We had television coverage from the local TV channels, had a lot of good seminars and sessions, and upon conclusion on the 7th we had a nice banquet, and we presented, I presented Joe Vecchione, who has been he and Cole Lewis, of course, were my godfathers, with Prudential, and presented him with a very nice plaque on behalf of National Safety Town Center for that wonderful conference that they put on for us. And then also we had certificates made up. It's a certificate of attendance, National Safety Town Center and Prudential Insurance Company of America do hereby certify that we put the name of the coordinator, attended the 2nd annual State Directors Convention held on November 5th, 6th, and 7th, 1976 at the Sheraton Cleveland, and signed by myself and the Associate Director, Public Relations, who was, of course, Joe Vecchione. That was his title at the time. Wonderful, wonderful time we had. Wonderful meeting. And this is the stationery, and the reason I have this is these are the people that were that attended the conference. Okay. And there's a picture of all these people along with Joe Vecchione in some of the events in the general information manual that we currently have available. That was a lot of fun. A lot of fun, and what a great way to get to know people and exchange ideas. Learned a lot. On April 11th, 1976, June Pfeiffer, who was, I forgot to mention June, way back when June was, has been involved with Safety Town with me since the inception of 1964. Actually 1963, when I came up with the idea of doing it in Bedford. And she was my neighbor on Eldridge Boulevard in Bedford Heights. And she had three very nice daughters, but 2 older daughters who were Safety Town instructors at first, and then when Patty, there was Sharon and Patsy, and then the little one, I can't think of the little one's name. And then she had a son, Johnny, and they were all instructors through the course of all the years that I taught. But June was a good friend, knew a lot. Her children had more medical problems, and she was like a walking medical book. Anytime I needed some information, I called her, she came right over and she helped the children. Fortunately, knock on wood, Tammy and Lynn were quite healthy and didn't have a lot of problems. But when they had fevers and little things, you still worry when they're small. And she was always there to help and console, because she'd gone through so much and she knew the information, and she was just very reassuring. But anyway, she assisted in doing a lot of this information and for me, worked as a librarian, obtained a lot of information that we needed. There were many times after a meeting, especially from the Automobile Club, I went to her house and just cried and to get over it, and she tried to console me and so forth. So, June, I want to thank you for all that you've done through the years in helping me. Again, sorry because of our lifestyles and different things we haven't kept in contact, but you thought about, I think about you constantly and often say thank you. But here on April 11th, she sent out a letter saying, enclosed are 3 pamphlets. One explains our program, one explains our upcoming workshop, and one explains our materials. And This was the seminar in 1974. Oh, it has it right here, 75, I'm sorry, because it has the accident statistics. No, it can't be. I'm sorry, it was April 11, 1976. It's accident facts from 1974. Okay? Using the National Safety Council accident facts. How many children died from accidents, cancer, birth defects, pneumonia, homicide. We included that in a lot of the information. So this is a sheet that we sent out to all the people, informing them about the seminars and where they would be located. And that was in 1976. Now, during that year, I think we only did, okay, let's see, where do we have when it was held on May 14th at the Holiday Inn at I-71 en Route 82. And we had the Cleveland chapter of the American Red Cross involved, the Greater Cleveland Safety Council, Academy of Medicine, the Poison Information Center, and the Cleveland Automobile Club were involved. So again, I don't have a workshop, but we'll have one later. Now this is the an article that appeared in the newspaper. Remember I said that we presented from the Prudential on this big one. We gave this along with a news release to all of our people who attended, and then told them to go back to their local communities and put it in their newspaper, and some of them did, and this is what this particular one came out. 5 from area attend Safety Town workshop. 5 representatives from Bedford Safety Town recently attended the first annual Safety Town workshop, which was held at the Marriott Inn. And it lists all of them that were attending, and who the guest speaker was, Franklin Herring, and Mrs. Schlatt hopes to expand the workshop in a national event. Safety is a universal problem, and having a National Safety Town workshop would be a valuable asset to the exchange of knowledge and offering all children the best possible safety education program. I am just as concerned about preventing accidents in California as I am in Bedford. This was my quote, and that's absolutely true. Okay, now here's the first workshop brochure that I have here. As I said, we have some back in Ohio. Safety Town workshop, and I try to use this format again for the bright color, make it easy, and it was easy to put in the envelope. Just saying the purpose of the workshop, did some background with some pictures, and then they mailed off the mailer and sent it back to us. The registration fee was $15 at this time, and I conducted seminars from May 4th through May 21st. From New Jersey to Pennsylvania, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in Ohio, from Akron, Bowling Green, Dayton, Columbus, Cambridge, Cleveland, then to Illinois, Iowa, and Missouri. Okay, that was in 1976. In 1978, again, no sense, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I'm not going to waste time duplicating. I didn't have people do the artwork. Was successful the first time. We did it again. Same basic one, but changed the inside. Put some children here. Put Bill Cosby here. This is the first one that we had with Bill Cosby, because he became our honorary chairman in 1976. Here are the list of seminars. Here's the form that they sent in, and we put the purpose of the workshop, what it would accomplish, and some background information. Now, just so you can have some idea of my traveling, how many miles I used to put on the car. This is from April 30th through June 11th. I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29 seminars. Now, I think 1 or 2 of these were canceled. To the extent that we didn't have a large enough group, but I met with, there was one man, I think in South Carolina or something one time. There was only one man that attended, and since we had the room, seminar room registered anyway. I conducted it as if there was a whole room of people just for himself. So that is where I spent a lot of my time, driving. And I would do the seminars during the day and then drive to the next location. And that's why they were all planned from, let me see here, for example, give you an example of what I'm talking about. The first one was in Pennsylvania, in Monroeville, on April 30th. On May 2nd, I then went to, April 30th, I went back to Cleveland, I believe. May 2nd, I went to Huntington, West Virginia. Down May 3rd in North Carolina, Greensboro. May 5th in Lexington, Kentucky. May 6th in Dayton. Sometime I would make the circle or go around and then go back to the office and pick up materials and coloring books and carry them in my trunk of my car. Okay. And this is the envelope that we had printed, and they would respond in the seminar. Just a little something. Okay. Always had Safety Town questionnaires. You always have to know what you're doing and how the people are responding. And I'll just read a few just so that we have some information. Okay, I don't know what year these are. For some reason, on a lot of these things, we never put the years down. Put all the dates, like April 2nd in the Times, but we forgot to put the years down. But we can check those in the file. No problem with that. Okay, the first question is, what is your general opinion of the workshop? It is great and should be continued. Exchange of ideas is so helpful. In which areas should more emphasis be placed? Appreciate this is a traffic workshop, but need for home safety coverage. We were delighted to hear that. Do you feel this workshop could be expanded into a 2-day workshop? Many people said yes. We never did that, but that could have been done very easily. Would you be interested in receiving a quarterly publication about various Safety Town information? Definitely. And as I said, some of these we started, remember, 71, 72, 73, and that's why in 74 we came out with the newsletter. I wanted to get input. If people didn't want them, I wasn't going to do it. What would you like us to accomplish? Have reference center for obtaining new materials and lending libraries on films. Okay, do you feel a need for a central office to contact for guidance and assistance? This is before, this had to be in the early 70s before we had the center. And whoever wrote this said, yes, feel Dorothy Schlatt's time is just not her own. I thought that was great. I don't know who did that. Nobody signed them. Were you pleased with the room reservations? Facilities at the Ramada Inn were very good. Additional comments, I'd like to extend thank you to the committee for a wonderful program. This workshop has been extremely helpful, especially to newcomers in Safety Town. Okay, I won't do a lot of them, but that's a duplicate one. Opinion of the workshop. No, this is a questionnaire for the parents. Sorry, this is not for the seminar. That got mixed up here. We just want the Safety Town workshop ones. There you go. Very good. Safety of all types. Through the efforts of the center, Safety Town will be mandatory before entering school. I love that. That was super. Okay. Another one. This is all the same. It was definitely informative. What would more emphasis be placed on in the organizational part of the program? I feel that there was too much to absorb in one day. A 2-day workshop with more detail would definitely be beneficial. Okay, so they didn't want the 2-day seminars. Okay, and this is the questionnaire that we still have in the organizational book, or organizational manual, for parents to fill out after their child attends the 20-hour program. That's for parents to fill out. Okay. 1978, this says. Missouri Workshop, Holiday Inn, Jefferson City. uh, Jefferson City, Missouri. Okay. And this is the way Jackie put everything together for me nicely. She started at the bottom with making the reservations at the hotel. What I would do is call the Holiday Inn 800 number and give them the list. I would look on a map, like on 75 and 40 on major routes where there would be the closest Holiday Inn. So I wouldn't have to go into little towns and little roads. It'd be just right off the main highway. And I would then look at my dates and call them and give them my dates, and then they would call me back, and Jackie would finalize the menus and so forth. And these are the questionnaires from each of these safety town from the thing. This one was James Potter, Assistant Director, Department of Police, Lee Summit, Missouri. This was in 1978. What is your opinion of the workshop? Fantastic. Was it helpful? Yes. What area more emphasis? Training of the teenagers. Additional comment. I was and am totally impressed with the whole concept and plan to initiate a program in Lee Summit, Missouri. Now I have to tell you something about James Potter, and I was hoping I'd have the other man's name here. It has to be, well, it's another man along with James Potter. But these two men sat in the back of the room during the seminar, and they were like this, and I thought they were sleeping. I really thought they slept through the whole thing. And they came up to me afterwards, and they were so enthusiastic. I was just, you could have blown me over with a feather. I just could, and in fact, I told them, I said, I just thought you were falling asleep back there, not listening, and they were just writing so many things down. And they left there, and they said to me, we're going to have you come to Lee Summit, Missouri. We don't know who's going to do the program, but we're going to have you come out and talk. And they arranged for me. They had, I don't know how they got somebody to absorb my plane fare out to Kansas City. They picked me up in Kansas City at the airport, took me to Lee Summit. They had a nice crowd of people. I remember sitting up at the table at the top with the police chief on one side and James Potter and this other man that I certainly will remember his name. And I started talking about the program. And they didn't have a sponsor. They didn't even know, nobody knew what the program was. So I just started talking. And I opened it up for questions. And one man stood up and said he was going to donate $500 because he was with ABC Buick Company or car dealer. And then another man stood up, I'm his competition and I'm going to match him $500. So we had $1,000 were our first two comments from the floor. And the police chief leaned over to me and he said, I think we'll sponsor this program. And I thought that was the cutest thing. And they did, and it's been going ever since, and they're doing a very nice job with it. And I'm still going to try to find this man's name on here. Here's Jackie had it all. When we attended the seminar, Jackie didn't come to all of them, but she went to as many as we could get her to go. And afford to have her go, like in Ohio and so forth. But we had my state coordinators, who was George Kulik at this time, put this together at the door. Now let me see if I can find that other man's name from Lee Summit. Donald Henderson. Donald Henderson and James Potter were the two men that came there. Now, remember in 1974, Pat Edwards and Art Buchanan. Pat Edwards was my first coordinator, and then Art Buchanan worked with her for several years, and then we started breaking up the state because it was getting large. So George Kulik did the southern part of the state, and Pat and Art did the northern part. But Pat and Art, mainly Pat, I think did a tremendous amount of work working with the State Department of Highway Safety people who helped absorb the cost of this seminar for us. And I want to show you, I just saw the, hold on, just saw it. There it is, okay. Missouri Missouri High Safety Report Governor's Conference set for April 11th and 12th. But now I know there was some information. Okay, here it is. Here it is. Safety Town Workshop scheduled in Missouri. The National Safety Town Center, Cleveland, Ohio, announces that Safety Town workshops will be conducted June 4th at the Holiday Inn, Blue Bridge Cutoff in Kansas City, and on June 6th at the Holiday Inn in St. Louis. Registration fee is $20. Now, from the desk of the director, who was F.M. Wilson at the time, he didn't endorse the program, but his assistant, Bob Burgess, who later went on to be director, really did a fabulous job of helping us to promote the Safety Town program. Bob Burgess and Ken Carnes were great. They helped us all the time that they were in office in helping us to promote the program. And here's the news release that the Department of Public Safety put out. Bob Burgess was responsible for this. The founder and president of National Safety Town Center in Cleveland, Ohio, will conduct a workshop and gave the dates and what Safety Town is all about. And they put out a, look how many pages, one? Okay, well it was one page, just a couple pages, one page that they sent to the media and had a fabulous, fabulous turnout. I think we had, well, let me tell you, let me show you here. We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. We had about 25 or 30 people that came. And that was really unbelievable. It was, I think they said they paid for 25 people from the State Department. Not all of them signed the paper. Okay, that was in 1978. Excellent, excellent workshop. They did television coverage with that, and it was shown at the 6 o'clock news, and we just had a great time. Again, we kept with the same format that we did before. This was 1980. Changed the inside just a bit to Safety Town, and then the purpose, the locations, and that to be returned with the fee. And then we put our slogan, Safety for Kids is a Great Cause, and I really don't think we did enough to promote this and really utilize this. We should have done a lot more with that. Hopefully we still can. And then the comments and the mailer. Then we started to do the mailing on it rather than putting it in an envelope because it saved money. We had our bulk mailing thing, so we just stapled and saved us the cost of an envelope. We pinched pennies like you can't believe. Now, 1980, we did seminars from I did, no, I conducted them, but I have to give my coordinators in every state, in just about every state that we had coordinators, they assisted. Where they didn't, it was small enough, it was a small enough group, maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 people, that I could handle the registration and did everything myself. On 5-6 we were in Illinois, Skokie, 527 in Iowa, then all the way down to 6-3 we ended up in Dallas, Texas. So we went through Michigan, we went to Illinois, Iowa, Louisiana, Massachusetts, Michigan a few, Missouri a few, New Jersey, Ohio, several in Ohio, flew out to Oregon May 1st, Pennsylvania, Texas, Wisconsin. Lots of seminars. This was our Iowa workshop in 1980, and again, just all the paperwork that goes around along with putting this together. I noticed Marvin Van Sickle was in attendance at this one in Iowa. So, a lot of nice people. 1981, this was the year, let's see, this week, the seminar in Missouri. held in Kansas City and St. Louis, 1981. Now, this was, again, now we changed the format a little bit. We took the Safety Town off. We had a new, couple nice interns throughout the years, several nice interns throughout the years, and some were in art and some were in public relations and different things. And this one came up with a nice little design. I can't remember who the person was. I'd have to look up their names, but they did a lot of nice things. So we did it a different way this way, and they wanted to focus more on my information. And then we had a new format here. One seminar, 2 segments, all aspects of child safety. And this was in 1982. This one was in November in Portland, Oregon, with Bill Cosby. And just a nice, different seminar. Okay, this is the one that was strictly done, I believe, in just Portland. This seminar will be, yeah, this was a special one that we had in Portland, Oregon in November, because we were getting a lot of requests out of there. Now, that was in addition to what we did throughout the whole year. The seminars, workshop, we'd call them. What do we call them? We'd call them seminars, we'd call them workshops. Whatever the in word was for that particular year, I guess we used. But we always conducted our seminars and workshops, usually in April and May, to allow the teachers sufficient time to put whatever information we discussed at the seminar into their curriculum. Such as Portland, we would do once in a while in the fall, where we were organizing, where we didn't have the programs in existence yet, but we were organizing. So we would spend most of the time during the seminar on how to organize, how to build the buildings, and then we would talk about the curriculum, and then sometimes go back the following year and have a workshop in the spring. Okay, April 28, 1983, SeaWorld. I have been blessed to have, I'm trying to think of the first gal that worked at SeaWorld, would be in a SeaWorld folder in the office, and I'm saying this so when I see this again I know where to look for it. There was a young gal who worked in the sales department, and she was able to convince them to give us our coupons to give out to our Safety Town graduates, and when they would use these coupons at SeaWorld throughout the year, we would get 25 cents back from each coupon. And I think that started back in 1982. I'd have to check this, I'm not sure. But we did this for, we're still doing this. It's 1998, and they just sent me 30,000 coupons to send out, and we'll get another 30,000 to distribute to people at various events that we do at shopping malls and square to square and so forth with Safety Town. But on April 28th, I sent out a notice saying, SeaWorld and our organization are planning an educational, entertaining, and exciting day on May 21st. It is our first Safety Town day for any student who has served or will serve this summer as a Safety Town instructor. In order that every one of your students can be informed, we need your help. Would you kindly make this announcement? Details on attached sheet. And we had Shamu goes to Safety Town, and it was a May 21st. It was where we actually trained our instructors. We had Clancy there. We actually had our tarp there, and I've got pictures to show, and we'll include them next time we go around with this. We had pictures of, I think it was Patty Frost was her name, and Clancy and the instructors. And then after we did the seminar, all the instructors and their chaperones and teachers stayed there until the park closed free of charge. What nice people. It was a nice event. Okay. This is the same one. This should be clipped with this. See? See, we're getting it all together. Okay. Now, let's see what this one is. Okay. Now, this was April. This was the initial form, the initial information that went out. Let me show you that again, because I got this a little mixed up. This is the initial form that went out, telling them about the seminar. Okay. Now, the program, and I hope I have a colored one of these in the office. The program was this. Let me get it together now. Okay. This is the program. It's a small, small world, and we did it a full. Isn't that neat? That was exciting. And we did it as this was 8.5 by or 11 by 17 page, and we had, for the notes, we had, I don't know if you can see, there's not faces of children for music notes. And we had Jiminy Cricket. I don't know why we tied in Small World with SeaWorld instead of Disney, but we did. And then on the back here it says, I'm sure you can't see it, it's a Small World seminar and training session. And it was fun. It was a nice, we had Lynn Singer was a pediatric psychologist from Rainbow Babies and Children's, who also wrote a nice introduction in my Let's Be Careful coloring book, along with Dr. Robert Paulson, who was a pediatrician at Rainbow Babies and Children's Hospital. I had Gordon Lindquist, who is the regional office manager of National Highway Traffic for Region 5. I had Peggy Skonowski, who was director of Ohio Bicycle Federation. I had Sherry Mullet as a speaker, board member of the National Community Education Association. I had Stephen Mancini, who was executive director of National Organizations for Advisory Council. Now, what had happened is our people every year did not want me to have speakers come from outside, these types of speakers. They wanted just people with Safety Town experience to talk and share their ideas for the one day. And that's why they kept talking about two hours. However, what they didn't understand is I needed these people to help me spread the word about Safety Town, and also to work with their organizations and different things. You have to really, as they said, one hand has to help the other hand, and so I try not to give these people too much time to speak, but I usually gave them about 20-25 minutes, which is, if somebody comes all their distance at their own expense, you have to do that, and we didn't pick up any of their expenses. But that was a very nice seminar. Okay, I hope we have a colored one left in the office to show next time around. Okay. Okay, this is a seminar that was held Monday, May 21st, 1984. Let's Be Careful seminar. And we use this sign we had a real large one, probably 3 feet by 3 feet, that we used at various displays and demonstrations. And that was quite nice. Again, this was the form. It was this type of a form. That's the front sheet. Okay, and let me see what the back sheet looked like here. Oh, we have a sheet in between here. Oh, this was the back sheet. Okay, it was folded. This is very thick. It was folded like, okay, how is it? There's the flyer. It's folded in reverse. Okay. And this was held at the Holiday Inn Coliseum in Richfield, Ohio. Okay. Then we had them fill out their name, their title, and hours of their Safety Town, so that if people called in the summertime, we could direct them to what Safety Town was in operation at what time. Okay. Okay. This is 1985. Now we started to go with this type of a brochure. Okay, and we used this, I think, for quite a few years. 15th Annual Safety Town Seminar sponsored by National Safety Town Center. This was in 1985. We did this every year since 1970, so it had to be 75th. 1985 was the 15th. This was held at the Sheraton Hopkins Airport Hotel, and all the information that we had sent out, the questionnaire was all right in here. Okay. Now this we'll put over here. That doesn't belong in there. This belongs in here. No, this is 1978. This doesn't belong in here either. Okay, we'll work on that later. See how things get mixed up in the file? I don't know if I mentioned, but in one of our moves, we didn't move that many times. As I said, we started of course, the Safety Town started in Bedford Heights in our bathroom. One bathroom was an office. Then when we moved to Solon, we had another bathroom that was an office. The typewriter was in such a position that it was against the wall, so it was just permanently there, and I just moved it. I would put the seat down, the toilet seat down, and sit on that and type that way. And it was in a room away from the bedroom from the children, so I could type late into the morning, up till 2, 3 in the morning, and get up at 6:30. But so that was the office there, and then we, as I said, had to move to an apartment for 2 years or so, and until we got all our financial things taken care of. Then we moved to, we had an office on Bainbridge Road in Solon. Then was very fortunate to find a nice facility at 23880 Commerce Park in Beechwood. Ralph Kahn was the owner of the building. He was a construction man. He had his construction company downstairs, but it was getting in bad times, I guess, and he was getting failing health. He and his wife were failing health, and we had beautiful offices upstairs, all glass, and we'll show pictures of this. All glass windows overlooking on the second floor. I don't know, I think we would have maybe 1,000 square foot. But downstairs where he had his construction company, he had 22 high storage, and he had compartments, and he had the hydraulic machine, and we bought things in quantity. That's the only way we could do it. And he let them store it in there. We packed in there, so it was like having another 1,000 feet plus of facility, and I paid, I don't know, I think $400 or $500 a month rent. He was just a very, very nice man. He had 2 sons, Jeff, and I can't think of the other one. And then we had to move because he sold the building, and we moved around the corner to where we are now, to 23366 Commerce Park. But what had happened is when we moved from the Commerce Park one, from Ralph Kahn's to the one we are now, and we've been there about 7 or 8 years, we had people, some students from a high school, local high school, pack for us. We put things in cartons, but when they put them in the truck, I don't know if they just threw them in or what, but when they opened the doors, when we arrived at our new location, opened the door of this large U-Haul truck, the entire bottom was boxes that just had opened up, papers all over. Absolute papers all over. Workshop papers were with corporate funding, things that we had all filed separately, were all thrown together. And this is why it's still taking us time to get through it. Some of it we did, but other things, as you saw here, here's one from 1978 to 1985. Things were just meshed together. It was just lined with papers. So we learned to either wrap them up real tight and tape them, just not put them in, because when they went around the corner, I don't know what they did, or if they just threw the boxes in. Those are secrets of life, I guess. Okay, this is the seminar in May 1985, May 1st, 1985, that we conducted, and the theme was, are you really? Are you really committed to excellence, or just talking? Are you involving the kids or holding those posters? Are you really providing demonstrations or showing movies? Are you really involving parents, or is that too time consuming? Are you really explaining reinforcement or sending home papers? Are you really informing properly or repeating myths? Are you really tapping dynamic energies or letting them escape? Are you really motivating your teens, or are they bored? Are you really training them or using osmosis? Are you really introducing new dimensions or procrastinating? Are you really utilizing resources or eliminating this potential? Are you really networking or bypassing this channel? Are you really coordinating efforts or going solo? Are you turning negative into positives? Are you really cashing in on resources or losing this wealth? Seminar conducted by Dorothy Schlatt. These are the types of things. I love doing these. I just had a wonderful time. Again, I have no idea. Every time Jackie and I say we're going to get video and put it together, and we always work to the last minute on preparations. I just wish I had so many of those wonderful videos, because the energy that I had, enthusiasm, it was just, I would just get going, and it was just wonderful. I felt great. Okay, this is a program for a special notice, the Cleveland seminar only. And this doesn't say when the date was, so we'll just put this one right up here right now. Okay, this one is 1986, and we did it this way. Teaching children properly and effectively. That is a big thing with me. And we use the theme again, what are you really teaching your children about safety? And have you ever told them the first thing you do before crossing the street is look both ways? If you have, you were incorrect on 2 counts. And then we talked about specific teaching techniques to provide the most effective safety education program. Excuse me. Ideas from basic to new and innovative approaches, transforming teaching tools to thinking tools. I love that one. Latest safety legislation and safety education information, most effective ways of obtaining maximum enrollment, recruiting, stimulating, and maintaining volunteer aides, encouraging and motivating parents to attend parent and parent-child sessions, effective management of volunteers, maximizing media exposure, effective procedures to work with school organization corporate personnel. And this was, we had, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 seminars this year. Denver, Colorado, Des Plaines, Illinois, Minneapolis, St. Paul, Cleveland, Ohio, Portland, Oregon, and Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So we did some traveling around there. Okay. I think I've been talking a little bit too much. Now, this was, again, we had this, what are you really teaching children about safety? This wasn't a Safety Town seminar as much as it was to start training police officers and teachers and firefighters on child development. And this was attention police officers, fire teachers, and parents. We held this one in Florida. We did several of them, one in Orlando on 3/3, one in Fort Myers, one in Boca Raton, one in Tallahassee, and one in Gainesville. And it was strictly that to properly and effectively to get away from some of the myths, because many of the teachers and police officers, you have to remember, did not have child development training, especially on safety education and how it affects a child. They were doing what they thought was best and saying things in our video when I talk on our third video. This is video number 2. But in video number 3, when I go safety town by safety town within the states, I'll talk more about the ineffective procedures that I witnessed at various safety towns by police officers, teachers, and firefighters, well-meaning people. But for example, one of them I remember saying, the police officer was talking to the children about people getting cataracts in their eyes, and the kids didn't understand that at all. No reason to tell them that. But those are things we had to work around, so that's why we had a seminar in March for those people. Okay, that year was, let me see, it was 1986. Okay, and now we have this one, which is in 1987, and this was held at the Holiday Inn in the Coliseum in Akron, Ohio. I'm sure that we did other ones, but this one was a nice big event for us. I had Rita Weiss, the manager of the school safety programs for the American Automobile Club out of Washington, D.C., and I had Janice Sutkus, who is the manager of Educational Resources Division of the National Safety Council. Both have worked very, very closely with me and trying to do as much as they could to help promote the program. They came in for the day, and I was a member, and have been a member of the Greater Cleveland Safety Council Board of Controls for many years. I think now probably 25 years or 26 years. I'd have to look that up when Earl Lowe was, I think it had to be around 1968. It might be 30 years that I've been involved with the Greater Cleveland Safety Council. I'll have to look that up. But they came in and did a seminar, and again, on the seminar request forms, or the seminar questionnaire forms, a lot of the people who attended said, you know, we don't want to hear speakers from national organizations. We want to deal strictly with what our people are doing. So that's what that came about, how that came about, with not having speakers. But you have to do these types of things. As I said, you have to, one hand has to help the other hand. So we got along with those, I guess. Okay, now let me just push this on the side here. In fact, I'm going to put this over here. Get this out of the way, because the next project is going to be kind of a fun project. It is a fun project. We had some, I have to go this way because we always put the latest. This file is Prudential file. Okay, now, the first letter to Prudential was in let's see, 1974. Now we have to backtrack here a little. What I just did was I wanted to get all the workshops and seminars that we did out of the way. So we got all those out of the way. And we have a lot more to fill in there, but we got to start. When the Highway Safety Foundation folded, and again, I think part of this is on tape number 1, but I can't recall who it was. Maybe it was Will Sachs. I can't recall who it was. Told me to contact Prudential Insurance in Newark, New Jersey, because they were a part of the Highway Safety Foundation as far as helping them financially. So I contacted Prudential Insurance via letter. I drove up there once to meet with Cole Lewis. He was very gracious. I went up there again, and he said, you're driving up here at your own expense. We're going to have to do something for you. I believe in the program. If it was up to Cole Lewis, I think he would have taken the whole program and put it under Prudential's wing. After I met with him, then he brought in Joe Vecchione. Now, Cole Lewis was the was a director of community affairs, and Joe Vecchione was the director of community relations, something of those titles I have to remember, but I don't want to repeat that too much because it's on the tape, on tape number 1, so we can splice that together. But here is a letter I sent to Mrs. Ludlow, public relations consultant of Prudential. I sent this on January 30, 1975. Evidently she sent me a letter, or I don't have an earlier letter, but said, in your letter dated November 14, 1974, you informed me that you had forwarded our proposal to your corporate public relations department. So I must have submitted a proposal, which I probably have back in the file under proposals, in early 74 when the Highway Safety Foundation folded, which is what I think Will Sachs told me to do, to submit a proposal. To date, I have not heard from them. Is there anyone that you can suggest I could write to as to the status of our request? The interest by the public about our program is continuing to rapidly increase. I just spent the past 2 weeks giving presentations in Connecticut, Iowa, Maryland, and New Jersey. The tremendous response, positive and enthusiastic, from city, school, organizational officials, and the general public was most rewarding. I realize your schedule is extremely busy, but I do hope you will be able to squeeze in a few minutes in the next few days to give us any information you feel might be helpful to us. Thanking you in advance for your time and interest. Dorothy Schlatt. Okay. Now, then the next letter was, I sent a letter March 8th, 1975 to Cole Lewis after I had met with him. It was indeed a pleasure to meet with you and talk with you, Paula Jarvis, and Alex Plinto, who were people that worked for he was Director of Contributions. That's his title right here. Okay. You were very gracious in affording me so much of your valuable time. Since our program concept is prevention, we felt Prudential would be most interested. Our request to Prudential is as follows: making a promotional film of Safety Town illustrating teaching classes, making a series of Our Friend Clancy movies, films, which we wanted so badly, like the Auto series for the AAA. I wanted 8 to 10 minutes to be shown every day, one with Clancy doing his magic trick on safety, one on fire, one on playground safety. Would have been such fun. Just couldn't get submitted the proposal to various corporations. Couldn't get anybody to pick it up. Okay. This is April 6, 1976. This is only to give you an idea of the size of the game board. The first thing that, one of the first things that Prudential did, I had the Safety Town game board that I made on cardboard with black crayon and so forth. And when they saw that, they took that and made it into the wonderful game board, which I'll show next time. This is what it looked like in black and white, the sketch. The art department made that. Took it off from what I made. I made stick figures and made it in bright color, and we've been selling the game board since 1976 or 77 when it came through. Okay, and these are different proposals that we submitted for them to absorb instructor shirts and whatever. Here's a January 8th, 1976 to Mr. Cole Lewis. Okay, now he was Director of Community Affairs. Okay. Okay. And here's the national promotion, the importance of preschool safety education and its effects on society and the business world, sponsored by Prudential, presented by Dorothy Schlatt. And the purpose, to inform the public of the importance of necessity of education for preschool children. Implementation, again, another proposal with the budget, time schedule, when we would do things from March 1st to June 1st and so forth, and the summary. So that was what we did with Prudential, what I did with Prudential. Okay, this is a flip chart I made for Prudential. I presented this in Newark on February 5th, 1976. Now, I went up there to talk to, I would say there were 18 or 20 men in the room, sitting around a long table. Some of them were with Prudential, some of them were with their PR company. George Glazer was one of the men from New York PR company. And they're advertising people. And I took this homemade flip chart and wrote certain things that I wanted to get my point across. And as I explained all this to them, at the end I said, I wish I would have had enough money to send a professional person in to make the presentation. There were things I probably forgot to mention to you, things I left out, but all I can tell you is that this program is, the people want it, the kids want it, it's a going program, I need help. And one man in the room, and I don't know who he was, stood up and he said, young lady, from your artwork we see that you need help and we will definitely help you. And since then, Prudential, I should say since then, but that was in 1974 when I went up there. 75 they started to do the game board for me. In 76 they sponsored and paid for all my people to come in that 3-day conference that I mentioned. They gave me $10,000 for the next, I think, 3 or 4 years, which paid for Jackie Herdlicka's salary and to buy some other materials for the office. And the reason that came about is Joe Vecchione was with public relations and Cole Lewis was with community affairs. They each had up to $5,000 to spend on their own without having to go to the board, and both of them gave their $5,000 to National Safe Town Center. Just super nice men. And as I said, they were with us. They did our catalog for us. They did a little brochure at first on our smaller items. Then when we got larger, in the late 80s, mid-80s, they made a nice great catalog that we're still using. So they really were my godfathers. Okay, I was always writing letters to them saying, to simply say thank you seems so inadequate for all the time and interest and support you have given me. As a result of last Thursday's meeting, which I am grateful to you for arranging, I do feel interest has been generated again. So they constantly tried to go to the board and get them to do it, to the top board, and get Prudential to underwrite the whole program, which I wanted to do, and they just wouldn't do it. Mr. Phil Worth was, I take that back, was Director of Public Relations, and Joe Vecchione worked under him. He was the assistant, and then when Phil Worth resigned, Joe became the director. So it was Cole Lewis, Phil Worth, Joe Vecchione, and there was another one. There were 4 musketeers that I used to call them. And I will find the other man's name in just a moment here. That worked under Cole Lewis. But Joe Vecchione, Phil Worth was the original director in Joe Vecchione. Joe Vecchione was a JC man. He was about the same age as Frank, so we shared a lot of JC stories. And I think that's why we worked a little closer with Joe than with Phil Worth. But Phil was a very, very nice man. Also, they arranged for me to have seminars in their Prudential offices, in some of their branch offices in the state of New Jersey. And they absorbed the cost of all the lunches and so forth. So we just kept working and working. We worked with Kay Wall. She was in the art department, and we constantly worked with her on the Safety Town game information. Just loads of information. Gene Ludlow was the public relations consultant. Just worked on, I'm trying to find the name of that other man here. But I will find it. But we had to, for the game rules, we had to write out the purpose of the game and what we wanted on it. A lot of information that we had to do. Okay. Alright. We're going through this presentation April 21st. That was a seminar. As you can see, I'm looking at this the same way you are. Duties of safety town personnel, we had to put down what we were doing. Advertising and sales promotion council, they had. Okay. Phil Worth, Joe Vecchione, and Bob Murray was the other man that was involved with Cole Lewis. I knew I'd find his name somewhere in here. Okay. I kept them informed of all the activities that we were doing throughout, kept phone calls, okay, I'm just looking to see. Marcia Caton sent Joe Vecchione a letter. Marcia Caton was our Illinois coordinator, she and her husband, Dr. Bob, and they were the ones that met with, I couldn't go into Chicago when Bill Cosby was playing at the theater in 75, late 75, I believe it was, when we were looking for a chairman. She and her husband went to the event and talked with Bill Cosby afterwards, and it ended up, I guess, that Bill Cosby and her husband went to school together, the same school, maybe not in the same class, but she said she kept talking and talking about Safety Town, and then asked Bill Cosby would he be involved with the organization, and he said, if you would listen. I said yes 10 minutes ago or something, but she kept talking, and then I had to contact Bill Cosby's office out in California, and Frank and I flew out there and met with Bill and met with his people and made the final arrangements. But Marcia, Caton, and Bob were the ones who went to see him, and she called me before she went, and because we were looking for a coordinator. We had discussed this at one of our meetings, and we talked about the Fonz, we talked about Evel Knievel, and Bill Cosby had just gotten his doctorate degree, and I thought this was most appropriate. So when she called and said Bill Cosby's going to be at the theater, I said, well, if you can go and talk to him briefly. I had a seminar somewhere I was doing, and as it turned out, it worked out very well. So, Marsh and Bob, we thank you. I'm sorry we couldn't do more with Bill Cosby. Wasn't his fault. We just didn't have the personnel to really plan the type of events that big time events that he's accustomed to doing. But this was a letter from Marcia Caton to Mr. Vecchione. I understand Prudential Insurance Company is considering an affiliation with National Safety Town Center. This was July 7th, 1976. I was involved in organizing this most worthwhile program in Niles, Illinois, and personally was able to observe the effect of Safety Town class on 425 children. So we were still having to send letters to these people early on just to make sure that they understood how important Safety Town really was, because they were familiar with the Highway Safety Foundation, but not after that. This is a lot of planning that went into the 1976 seminar, and here's the note that I sent to Eleanor and Joe Vecchione, because they did come in to the conference. Cole Lewis did not come in, but Joe and his wife Eleanor came, and we had a wonderful time. And I sent them this little note. Dear Eleanor and Joe, just a note to let you know that we, with your help and aid in sharing in the progress we have made. That doesn't make sense. Just a note to let you know that we appreciate your help and aid in sharing in the progress we have made. Maybe it should be. This meeting that is so essential was made possible by Prudential. To them we extend our heartfelt appreciation for bringing in directors from across the nation. Each time you water this plant, you'll remember the good times we all had this November. So keep it healthy and it will thrive, and like our friendship will be kept alive. I sent them a very, very nice, or we sent them a very nice plant. I thought we gave it to them, but they were flying, so we sent them a plant. Okay, they also had a book in 1976 called Child Safety is No Accident. And we used that and gave that away for a long time. It was a very, very nice book, a little book on child safety that we gave to the parents. Okay, worked on the Safety Town game. They're still working on that. We had a lot of work with that. Bob Murray was with the public relations advertising. Okay. Donna Treadway, who was our coordinator of Wisconsin, sent Joe Vecchione a very nice letter to support our efforts in June of '97. Mike Lynch sent one from Michigan. Okay. Bob Frick, that was the man's name. Those were my 4 musketeers. Okay. Bob Murray was in public relations. Let me get this straight. At first, Cole Lewis was director of community affairs. Bob Frick was his associate director. Phil Worth was the let me get Phil Worth. Phil Worth was the director of public relations, and Joe Vecchione was associate director of public relations. Those were my 4 musketeers. Bob Murray, Kay Wall, trying to think of all the other nice people that were involved, were with the public relations department. Okay, Lee Burke sent a letter. Lee Burke was one of our northern New Jersey coordinators. Tom Kozlowski did the southern part, and he did the northern part. As we expanded, we did this. Now, after the game, the next thing we had them do is they made posters for us. Okay, because we had shirts, t-shirts, and games and puzzles, and I offered these on consignment to the local people, that they could make them available for the parents to purchase. Whatever they sold, they sent us the money. What they didn't sell, they could send back. And what an experience it was for us. A lot of people did not understand what consignment meant. And they would call up and say, do we have to pay for this? And we'd have to explain it over and over and over. But Prudential made three different folders, posters for us. Very large. We'll have them next time. 17 by 22 in red, white, and black. We still use them. And Clancy shirts available to help you think safety. And they could put the price in them. Okay. That was for the poster. This was for Safety is the name of the game. Okay. And by the way, we'll talk about this later. A few years after this came out, Canada used this exact, I don't think they used the Safety Town game, I took this out, but they used this exact picture for their national poster for Safety Week. How about that for being creative? And there was another one of these on the puzzles. I don't have it, but we'll have it next time in color. Okay, now here we go. This was in, let me see if I can find the year on this one. August 12th of 1977. Youngsters learn, well, let me do it this way. Youngsters learn to play it safe. And there's a picture of Safety Town. All nice things of Safety Town. And that's from the program in, let me see where that was, in, I believe it was Southfield. South Plainfield. South Plainfield. So we got nice coverage in their publication. Okay. We're just going on with this. This is a letter I sent to Bob Frick on October 7th. Dear Bob, your letter of September 8th and that beautiful, most welcome 5,000 check arrived in our office September 12th. I am sorry my response is so late, but I have been ill, which has caused my unanswered correspondence to pile to grow even higher. Again, many, many thanks for making possible for us to receive this check. Okay. So then we had a meeting with Prudential on January 13th, 1978, discussed sponsoring of workshops again, recognizing of directors, possibly having another conference. Okay, I'm just going to try to turn this over and see if I can. I just want to touch on some highlight things here because they did so many nice things for us. Here's another letter, September 22nd, 1978. Dear Cole, your letter and that $5,000 check arrived yesterday on my birthday. That's the best present I ever received. So we just, this is the second draft of a letter. This was in 1978. I submitted another proposal up to have another, every 2 years maybe have a director's conference, but they rejected that just to give us another $10,000. So as much as I wanted to get everyone together, they felt it was more important for me to have money at the center, which was true. I needed people there. Okay. Okay. I kept trying for different proposals, and they send me a PR list of the Southfield and Southgate areas, so we could send people information about our seminars. They were just very, very happy. Here on February 2nd, 1979, I sent Cole Lewis a letter congratulating on being appointed Vice President of Community Affairs. So that was nice, and I always sent them nice little gifts. I think it was Phil Worth that I sent a mirror. I don't know whether this was after the first or second $5,000 check or whatever, but I had a nice square mirror, and we got little children's faces and Safety Town signs around, and underneath we put, every time you look in the mirror, these children and all of us are saying thank you or something. It was really nice, and I was very creative at during those times, and I know that they enjoyed them. They often remarked about how good they were. And I know there's an interesting letter here from Phil Worth later on, how he had budgeted money for us, and it was, when he went on vacation, it was given to someone else, but I didn't know that until after he left the company. Here's the letter, October 2nd, 1979, from Joe Vecchione, Vice President of Public Relations. He was appointed Vice President too somewhere along the way here. I missed his congratulatory note. Dear Dorothy, as promised, encloses a check for $5,000 for Safety Town purposes. Between now and the end of our fiscal year next August, we plan to send you an additional $15,000 in $5,000 installments. You know we are proud of Safety Town's accomplishments and goals and wish you continued success. I'm looking forward to seeing the television segment of Safety Town. I appreciate knowing it will be shown in the metropolitan New York area. So they were able a few years to get me $20,000, and that was just so exciting. Okay. Now, on November 20th, 1979, we sent them a letter because we were sponsoring what we would hope to have been our first evening with Bill Cosby as a fundraiser. It was held at the Front Row Theater on February 15th, 1980. We sent flyers out to everyone, and well, this doesn't even really belong here now. This is the back side of it, I guess. But Joe Vecchione flew in with I think 2 or 3 people from Prudential, and it was a horrible ice storm. It was a black ice storm. In fact, their plane from Newark almost had to land in Detroit, and they almost bust him in, but they finally landed in Cleveland. The show was late. Jose Feliciano was a warm-up act for Bill Cosby. Well, first we had a little private party, a cocktail party, in the cocktail lounge at the front row for people who paid extra, the VIP package. The VIP package was $25, and the show ticket was $9.25, if you can imagine that. We made very little money. And Frank's Quartet, the Crooked River Music Company, sang for the VIP, and Clancy performed his magic tricks. And then Jose Feliciano played, and then Bill Cosby entertained for, I think it was an hour and 45 minutes. It was unbelievable. He said, "You people were so nice to come out in this storm, and we will entertain you." And he was just very, very gracious. Believe it or not, I didn't even get to meet him that night. We sent flowers and candies and so forth in the back room, but I had so many problems with the Front Row Theater because when we booked the event with Bill Cosby, we bought the whole theater out. But he was there for additional performances for the general public. When our people were calling in instead of calling in for us, they were calling in the theater and buying tickets which they thought were for our event. And the Front Row Theater would not exchange the tickets. And they threatened me. They said, "If you don't have a full house, we're not going to have Bill Cosby perform." And I had all these tickets sold. We had all this food prepared for the cocktail party and so forth. And the programs were late. In fact, we didn't pass out the programs till on the way out. It ran smoothly, but in front, but behind the scenes, I was running around literally like a chicken trying to get everything done. And you think it'd be easy. We couldn't get a photographer. One time I hired a photographer to take Bill Cosby's picture when he first came on board with us in '76. I hired a professional photographer from a newspaper, paid him $75, which was a lot of money. We went down to Cleveland Convention Center. On the way coming home, he said he hopes the pictures came out because he was so nervous. Well, he shook most of the pictures, and very few of the pictures came out from the publicity. So I don't know what it was that I attracted these people, and we couldn't get, we didn't have the money to hire the good ones. Although $75 to take a few pictures I thought was a good thing. He was just so nervous of taking Bill Cosby's picture. But anyway, they came in for this, and this was an excellent event. In fact, once we made the commitment to do this, and you have to remember, as I said, Molly Dolan was a friend of mine. Of course, she wasn't involved with the details. She had her staff doing it, and when she found out what they were doing, she was very upset because there was one lady there was just as nasty as could be, and she wouldn't let us get a message to Bill Cosby. She wouldn't do anything. But the the event, as I said, went off nice, and everyone had a good time. Very few people knew about the whole thing, but during the show, Frank, Lynn, and I sat up in the back of the auditorium, and were folding the programs so our people on the way going out could see the programs. And we'll talk about that when we get to they were nicely done on parchment paper, and so it took so much time to do it that I really got behind about 3 or 4 months in our Safety Town responses for people who wanted to set the program up. So we decided not to do that anymore until we had sufficient staff, and of course we never did, so we discontinued that. Okay, here's December 18th, another $5,000 check. As he promised, I would get the 4 of them throughout the year. For a few years we did that. January 16th, here's notes for my meeting. Okay, Joe Vecchione. I want to find that letter from Phil Worth. I'm sure we'll find it. Okay, this was a letter I sent April 18th, 1980 to, remember this is all prudential related information. That's why we've gone from 76 through 80, and we'll go up a little bit more here. I sent a letter to George Glazer, Senior Vice President and Managing Director of Broadcast and Video Services Division of the Hill and Knowlton Company. Now that was one of the top companies in the country, PR company. And for me to have the use of these people was just unbelievable. I mean, my head was like a sponge. I would make notes. I always had notebooks with me. Would make notes, sometimes 2 different books, one for public relations, one for Safety Town, whatever. And I would still absorb it, and I'd get in the car and I'd talk in the recorder some more. But my brain, that's probably why it's getting burned out, because it probably burned out so much in the early years. But I sent George a note. Dear George, it was so nice to see you in New York last Thursday. I greatly welcome and appreciate the opportunity of continuing to inform you and to personally meet and officially introduce our program and organization to Jim and Marv. The working paper prepared by Marv was thoroughly and excellently prepared and offered numerous suggestions. Other than a few minor adjustments, I see no stumbling blocks. I actually look forward to working with you and Hill and Knowlton personnel in assisting us in accomplishing our goal of having a safety town in every town. Thank you for that delicious lunch. I burned off all the calories just waving my arms in my attempts to hail a cab for about an hour, which was unsuccessful. Evidently, the New York cabbies find my arms unattractive. Next time I encounter that situation, I will paint them green with dollar signs. Maybe they will find that more attractive. I started to state when I lost my train of thought here for just a moment. I wanted to go back to the Bill Cosby event. I can't remember what I was going to refer to, the Bill Cosby event. Maybe it'll come to me again. Okay, burnout brain. It's getting late. I've been doing this all day today. Okay, now, there came a time, a few years after they made the games, that they wrote and told me it was cheaper for me to have the games done locally than for Prudential to do them. Well, they gave me the money to have it done, but what we had to go through was unbelievable. We had to get the sheet, that flat sheet, printed in one place, send the sheet to a board company to be on. We had to get the spinner from another company. We had to get the cards made from another company. We had to get the game box from another company. We had to get the stuffers from another company. And we were selling the games for $5. I think we made 50 cents on a game. As I said, I needed a marketing manager to handle these things, because it just wasn't financially successful from that standpoint, because I just didn't understand financing. It took me a little while, but I got there. Okay, here's some strategy. Prudential will become the umbrella organization of a nationwide program of child safety awareness. Use its regional home offices as area headquarters from which safety town programs can be introduced. Promote the use of safety town programs. Seek a nationally known personality associated with children, Miss Piggy or some other puppet to help publicize the program. So these were all ideas that I just kept coming up with and sending to them, hoping to get them to do different things. Here's another one. This was submitted, I don't know the date of this. Prudential will work with Safe Town executives to kick off a national campaign with demonstrations of the program, perhaps simultaneously in Washington, D.C., Jackson, Florida. Use the Prudential HROs as centers of operation, put in place the mechanisms for setting up the programs around the country. The objectives were to establish Safe Town programs around the country, to associate Prudential with a national campaign to teach good safety habits to preschool children, to publicize the need for such programs throughout national and local. So we kept trying to get them to underwrite the whole project. And with the whole note, oh, I know what I was going to talk about with the Bill Cosby event. When Joe Vecchione found out we were having Bill Cosby come in, and I had already started all the groundwork as far as the PSAs to the local papers and sending out the letters to the corporate people for sponsors and so forth, which I had to go through the Growth Association. Joe Vecchione said they had a division of Hill & Knowlton in Cleveland, and I can't think of the company's name right now. So he called them, and two of their people came out to our apartment. Two of their men came out, and I showed them what we did. We went to lunch and then went back to the apartment for about, Frank was there with us, for about 2 or 3 hours, and I showed them everything they did that I had done and laid out because I had it all planned out from A to B. And they said, well, you really have everything all laid out for us. I understand that we have everything laid out. There wasn't anything for them to do. So they sent Joe Vecchione a letter, which I have here somewhere, saying that everything was really taken care of. But because they were under contract, Joe Vecchione and Prudential had to pay them. And I think it was somewhere, I'm not too sure, I think it was somewhere in the neighborhood of $3,000 to $4,000, which was more money than we made on the Bill Cosby event. But that's how big business works. Okay. If Prudential would have given us another $3,000 check or $4,000 check, we wouldn't have had to do the event. But it was our fault for not making enough money, making the prices high enough. But at that time, that was those were the prices that were going rates for fundraising events in Cleveland. April 25th, 1980. Dear Dorothy, as promised, here's another $5,000 check. I will make arrangements for the last $5,000 in the next 2 to 3 months. Joe Vecchione. And those letters were just so beautiful to keep coming. And they just, for many years. And Joe always told me if I ever ran into trouble that they would bail me out, and they did on a few occasions, but here is something. It says, I think you will see how desperate we need your help. Joe, we are very pleased and proud that Prudential provided us all that beautiful in-house assistance for our game and folders, and that Prudential believed in us in 1975 and followed up with the initial grant in 76. Prudential's continuing financial in-house has been of tremendous help. I feel it would be of help. I will send a bulk mail. Let's see. You know, we believe in the importance of safety. But we are growing so rapidly that I do not see how we can possibly continue without personnel and financial support. And that was, Joe, please just let me know what we can do to convince Prudential officials to provide the necessary support that we need to continue our work in a professional manner. Because it was just I even quoted Vince Lombardi here. In closing, all I can say is that what I previously have stated to quote Vince Lombardi, "Believe in me and my system and I will give you a winner." But they just could not convince the top board. In fact, Joe Vecchione called me one time after a meeting and he said they told him that if he goes into the board meeting and mentions Safety Town again, that he and Safety Town would be going out the door. So he had to control his emotions, I guess. Okay. Sent him. Here's another little article that appeared on Safety Town in their magazine. Oh, I guess the most important thing about this is another check here, January 29th, 1981. Another one, June 4th, 1981, $5,000 check. I think we got $20,000 for a few years. I'd have to check our financial thing on that, but just to show you how much work goes into putting what sounds like a simple thing to do. To discuss with Joe Vecchione, I made all kinds of notes. I wrote them out, and of course then I typed them out, but in July 17, 1981, I wrote Joe Vecchione a letter. "Dear Joe, Frank and I have encountered several unfortunate situations during the past few weeks. Our daughter Lynn had her apartment struck by lightning, breaking windows, mirrors, dishes, and completely destroying a huge tree in her garden. Frank's dad passed away on June 24th. A smoke bomb was thrown into the apartment below my mom's window. My mom lived in a two-story house upstairs, and a bomb was thrown downstairs, but it burned much of the house. Fortunately, a 17-year-old boy broke in and rescued her out of the bed because it was at night. The fire caused, there's a great deal of fire and smoke damage, and because the windows were broken. My mother lived across the street with a friend, and sometime during the next night, somebody broke in to her apartment and stole several things. Stole an beautiful old chest, which I had a lot of my things in there, and some tables and lamps and different things, and she had quite a few religious pictures on her walls, and they tore those down and made some signs that "See if he'll help you now," this type of thing. So it was really cruel. They even ate and left crumbs all over the table and different things, and it was just unfortunate. But the following day after that, I had to be on morning exchange, and my mom never told me of this situation until after I did the morning exchange situation, which was just unbelievable. And we had the funeral services were held for Frank's dad on the 27th, and then on the 27th, I was also informed the day we buried Frank's dad that my brother, who was in Arizona, had bone cancer, and so it was not. And then it continues. Tuesday afternoon, I collapsed out of the UPS office, just fell down. And then Friday, I had to go in for oral surgery. So we had a very bad couple of weeks there in July. But as I said, this is going to be a mixture of all kinds of things I was going to share with you. I'm sure everybody has these going through business, but Joe Vecchione responded he was sorry to hear we had so many problems. Dorothy, it's only fair to tell you that I hope to get you a contribution from potential in the coming fiscal year. I'm positive we will not be able to continue at the $20,000, which is what we have given you in the last 12 months. So I think they went to $10,000 the following year. 2 years we got the $20,000, I think. It was 78, 79, 80. Okay. What is this? This is a big, okay. Dear Joe Vecchione, Dear Joe, this letter and the closed information will serve as a summary of the major activities and inform you as to activities planned for the upcoming year. And I wrote, again, I dictated it, but Jackie typed all this out. The special magic show we did, and our first displayed tarp was manufactured and finally prepared, and that was in 1980. We did a promotion with Wendy's. These are all things that are explained in our bi-monthly newsletter. A copy of Governor DuPont's proclamation. We just put together a nice big, kept him informed. And this was not sent like this. This was sent in a binder in a real nice cellophane or those plastic containers. We did that very nice. Only I didn't. We just kept ours very plain here. We didn't need to do it that way. Okay. I constantly kept Joan involved with the Public Relations Society of America. I had some volunteer students. Pamela Savransky was my community relations coordinator. I'm trying to think when she started working for me. I think it was in 1981. She's a dynamite little gal. Dynamite little gal. Because I worked so hard and I guess I was overtired, I didn't realize the talent she had and what she could have done had I let her just go on her own. I misinterpreted some of her things. She just had a lot of energy, and she would come into the office 3-4 times, say, I have this idea, and finally, I think Frank brought me a stop sign rug. It said stop by the office, but she came right in all the time. But she was just dynamite, and I think had I had more patience and let her go on her own. I mean, she would get on the phone and she got to Smuckers. She just had the chutzpah, and she would get to people, and she could have done a lot of promotional. But again, we didn't have the funding, and I had to divert her to doing some secretarial work and helping Jackie and doing files and things. And we parted nicely. She was offered a wonderful job with a radio station or TV station in Akron, and then after she got there a few weeks, she had me come on and talk about Safety Town. So she's remarried. I felt very, very unfortunate because one of her paychecks didn't clear, and her husband came and was very furious with me, and so it was just a lot of unfortunate things. But boy, I think had we kept her, she would have done a lot in public relations, because she was 4 feet of dynamite, maybe 4'10", but she was a very nice gal. And Pamela, I don't know what your last name is or where you are, but wherever you are, I know you had to be successful. I think she wanted to be a director of a television show. Hope she made it. But anyway, she wrote, I had her talk to Joe Vecchione on the telephone, and here she said, October 22nd, 1981. Dear Mr. Vecchione, it was such a pleasure talking with you this week. I can see why National Safe Town Center considers you and Prudential such invaluable asset. At present, I am contacting the following area colleges regarding the PRSSA project: John Carroll, Case Western, Cleveland State. And she formed a PRSSA Junior Board, Public Relations Society of America Junior Board, who met on Saturdays at the office and came up with some projects to do, like the Wendy promotion and different things. So there were so many avenues that we went down. It was unbelievable. Anybody that made a suggestion, we tried it. And some we did well and some we did not do well. Okay. Send him a copy of the videotape from PM Magazine. Okay, July 27th. We received the $5,000 check. Okay, boy, those things were really, really handy for us. Okay, now on July 22nd, 1982, we sent Joe a letter. You are cordially invited to be our honored guest at our 8th annual National Safety Town Week breakfast. It was held at the Midday Club. Sunday, the red carpet reception at the airport. We chauffeured them to the hotel. Dinner with newly appointed Greater Cleveland board members. And we had a board meeting and so forth. And we'll talk about the National Safety Town Week breakfast file after we get through with the Prudential. But he was a part of that. And as well as was Julie Phillips, Bill Cosby's representative or secretary. Okay. Joe Vecchione made this presentation at the breakfast on July 22nd, 1982, and I thought this was great. You have to try to understand that we were headquartered in Cleveland. I was working with the Growth Association. Members of the Growth Association went through their financial review committee trying to get money from anybody in Cleveland. Extremely, extremely difficult. Yet here's Prudential, 750 miles away, giving us $20,000 a year, and they're not even located in Cleveland, Ohio. Now, when I would approach the Cleveland people for funding, they would say, well, you're a national organization. Try national companies in other cities. When I approach national organizations in other cities, they say, well, what are you Cleveland people doing for you since you're based in Cleveland? I mean, it was unbelievable. So here's key points from Joe Vecchione's speech at the National Safety Town Week breakfast, where we had a lot of biggies from Cleveland. We had assistant to the mayor, Ed Richards. We had Bill Bryan, president of the Growth Association. We had Bruce Akers from Ameritrust. A lot of big people. Stofers, we had Dick Atkinson. Here's what he said. We fell in love with National Safety Town Center in 1974 because of what it does for kids. While we are approximately 500 to 600 miles away, I said 750, sorry. While we are approximately 500 to 600 miles away from you, we cannot physically be here in Cleveland, where Safety Town was born and where Safety Town continues to live. I wonder how many of you here in this room realize that you are the nucleus of a very wonderful organization, and that without you it would not work. Companies such as ours can donate money, give encouragement, but we cannot run the program. You have to do that. It's a little like not realizing, because you are here, just how important the work that you are doing here in Cleveland and the ramifications it has as it spreads out from this beautiful city of yours. Isn't that unbelievable? And these people still weren't getting it. Like hit them in the head with a brick, you know? We have tried in a lot of different ways, because there really is nothing better than trying to save children from injury or being killed. Safety Town cannot exist without the people in this room and the ones who are not able to make it. So if I come to you with any message at all, it's this one. Keep working for Safety Town. Be proud of its institution here in Cleveland. Sure, it's national, but really its heart is here. Its direction has to come from here, and its energy comes from here. Isn't that fabulous? Still couldn't hit him in the head. Try the Cleveland Foundation, try the George Gunn Foundation. Martha Holding Jennings wrote proposals this thick to them all the time. Okay, this was 1982. We informed them that we officially became the International Child Safety Center, and later the International Child Safety and Health Center, to incorporate safety villages, safety cities, safety towns, and all. And although we didn't do anything in making, now here's another thing, we should have probably had a nice new catalog and make certificates and make t-shirts and things of that type for them to purchase, but we did not have the wherewithal to do it all. Okay? right. Okay. There's more and more letters. I think we're just about at the end of this. We're through 1980. We're in 1983. Another check for $5,000. We sent them information on the SeaWorld proposal, where we had the nice instructor training session. Unfortunately, they didn't send anyone in. In March 27, 1983, I sent a proposal to Joe Vecchione. Cole Lewis was involved with the symphony in Newark, so I came up with an idea, Symphony for Safety. I just thought of the above. Wouldn't that make a great title for our 10th year event? Here are a few other ideas. Maybe the symphony could play prior to, before, after. Maybe Bill Cosby could even conduct the symphony for one number. This was to have another Bill Cosby event. Also, committee members could include Julie Phillips, Bill Cosby's secretary Marv Wagner, David Brokaw, who is Bill's PR company. Another idea, even though the event would be held in Newark, we could send contribution letters to music lovers and safety friends throughout the country. There must be symphony goers in every symphony city who are supportive of others because they believe in continuing to bring fine music to the public. I am confident many of our corporate and safety people would support our national event, knowing that NSTC is working with professionals. Sorry, was turned down. Okay, but the brain kept working and working and working. Okay. Okay. We sent him a letter that we were working, Dr. John Yankee was working with us for the past 3 months. His purpose is to review our history and update our mission statement, the purpose and objectives. Dr. Yankee was a wonderful man. Oh, great person. He was Associate Dean of the School of Applied Sciences at Case Western Reserve and is considered one of Cleveland's top consultants in organizational planning. His services are being provided by United Way, the George Gunn Foundation, and the Cleveland Foundation. They said that in order for me to get any funding, I had to have him, along with other people, put together a mission statement, our new objectives, a statement. Unbelievable. Yet they kept telling us we couldn't get money, seed money, because we were already established organization. So we couldn't get the funding, but yet they kept telling me to go through all this. It was very frustrating. Very frustrating. Okay. I am still looking for that letter. Maybe it's in, I'm glad I'm mentioning, because I do want to have that letter that Phil Worth sent me after he left, saying that they had allocated, he had allocated something like $60,000 or $80,000 for us before he left the company, and before he retired, and when he went out of town on vacation, somebody took that and put it for another organization. Okay. Okay. I might go through some of this later, but let's see, what is this now? March 26, 1985. Dear Joe, I had a fantastic idea last night about 2 a.m. During our telephone conversation, I explained that 1986 will be the 10th year that Bill Cosby has been our honorary chairman. For several months, I have been thinking of what big event we could conduct in honor and celebration of Bill Cosby. Here is my idea. Bill Cosby could perform his one-man concert in Newark with proceeds to benefit the New Jersey Symphony and the National Safety Town Center. Why Newark? Okay. I realized that while 1985 is still got Bill Cosby's 10th year with us, there's also Prudential's 10th year supporting our efforts. I cannot think of a better way for us to say thank you to Prudential and Bill Cosby to do this. That was an addition that was after the other Symphony for Symphony for Safety. This was a follow-up a few years later. That was turned down. Okay. Okay, folks, that is hot off the presses. Here are the first two. 6 more would follow: organizational manual and the publicity manual. The latest ones they gave us, I think they gave us the $5,000 grant to print our Safety Town manuals that we're now using. That's why the back cover has their whole credit line. And that was in 1986. We reprinted them. And that is it, folks. Okay, this should go with this other information on where it is. Okay. Okay, we're back to start another year. Now we just completed the Prudential file, and remember that went from from 1974 all the way through about 1982, 83, I think. And but that encompassed, that one big file just encompassed everything from our initial meeting with Prudential and the grants that they gave us, and the $5,000 grants. Some years it was 20,000. I think 2 years we received 20,000, 5,000 intervals. And then it went down to 10,000, and then we continued to get different grants. Also, it included all of the promotional material, the printing of the game, the posters, our first little brochure, which I don't have with me. We have it in Ohio. They did a small, nice little brochure that had about, maybe 8 or 10 of our first items: the puzzles, the coloring book, the posters, and the t-shirts. And then later on in the tape in the 80s, so down back in 82, 83, we'll talk a little bit later about the catalog and thing they did for us. Okay, so now we're going on to 1975. And every year I always kept some kind of a book. Unfortunately, I didn't mark in every day. Once in a while I missed, but most of the time I wrote in exactly. You can see some days I didn't leave a white spot anywhere around because there was so much to do, and I wanted to jot down as much as I could remember at that time. On this one just happens to be Wednesday, June 18th. I have up at 6:30, took the train. Busy day. Frank picked up coloring books from Westville. And Mrs. Linhart called. I can't remember who she is, but someday I'll go through. But I wrote so small, I don't even know if my eyes are going to be able to read some of these things. But anyway, every year we have a nice catalog, a nice record of what we've done. Sorry about my voice. It's not in the best shape today. I have a nice cup of coffee here. It's decaf and fat-free milk, so I'm following my diet. This is an article that appeared. Now remember, I have I would say probably a Xerox box full of newspaper articles back in Ohio from local safety towns and from my participation at various events. But I had some here, and I wanted to include these just to remind myself how to correlate this all when we take all these videos that we're doing now and make it into one big one. That's going to be a lot of work, but probably be much easier than doing this. Okay, this was Wednesday, January 15th. It says 19, I think it's 1907. The last numeral is very blurred. I'm thinking it's 1975. We'll have to check this in the file. Middletown, Connecticut. I spoke there. And I recall this was shortly after the Highway Safety Foundation had folded, so I think this is right after that particular time. Okay, and I spoke to the Middletown Junior Women's Club, and of course they now have a safety town. Now here is a letter from, let's see, this is January 20th, 1975, from Howard Hungfeld. Remember, we talked with him a few in 1974. And this is from Tom Kozlowski to Howard. Your correspondence with Dorothy Schlatt of National Safety Town Center has been forwarded to me, and I'm very pleased to see the progress Wayne Safety Town has made in the past few months. Hopefully we can meet in the next few weeks. Is February 18th a convenient day? Any assistance the National Safety Town Center can provide, please contact me any time, day or night. Tom Kozlowski, New Jersey State Director. And that's one of the things our people did. And as I said, I was just so tremendously fortunate to have these people do this all on a volunteer basis with very little training and very little follow-up on my part. I didn't have the people to do it. It was myself doing it and Jackie doing the typing. Okay, this was Wednesday, July 16th, 1975. And this is an article that was in the newspaper. Safety Town opens its doors. Now this is very interesting because ER Squibb is located in, I believe it was Trenton, New Jersey, which is right next to Lawrenceville. When they heard of this project, they allocated, I think it was 30 or 35 people to help make the houses, design the houses. Somewhere in our file back in Ohio we have a folder on ER Squibb, and it gave the names of all the people that were involved. It was just excellent publicity for them. And now here at the top page is, of course I was there on opening day to open our first safety town in New Jersey, and I presented a plaque to the president of the J.C.'s. I think that's who it was. No, I'm sorry. This was Mayor Frank Nerwinski, Nerwinski,